Hi, I'm Tanya, and today we're going to start our stretches with a standing arm circles. So standing with your feet right under your hips about 6 inches apart, your hip bones and your knees are pointed straight ahead. We're going to exhale as we bring the arms up and inhale as we open and bring them down. Make sure that your knees are relaxed. The tendency for a lot of us is to press into the backs of our knees and to bring a lot of tension into the legs and the knee joint. So make sure that they're relaxed. Exhale as you open, inhale as you bring them down. As you remember, as we exhale, when we lift our arms up by our ears, it helps us to keep our rib cage together in the front, which prevents us from arching our back. It also helps to keep the collarbones down, the shoulders down as we lift the arms. Exhale up. Inhale helps us to broaden our rib cage, and our shoulder girdle sits on our rib cage. So as we are opening our arms and lowering them, we want that nice broad rib cage to support our shoulders. One more time. Exhale and inhale. Now we're going to lift up onto the balls of our toes. As we exhale, bring the arms up. Inhale, open, slowly lower down with control. You want to lift up and feel that you are centered over your big toe, your second toe, and lower down, and that you're not rolling out to your pinkies. So that really requires the use of the inner thighs. Whoop, here I go forward and down. Squeeze the inner thighs, roll slightly in towards the big toes, and down. Lift up, and slowly down with control. One more time, and up, and down. Now we're going to add a hinge. So we're going to bring the arms by the ears as we hinge at the hip line and keep the spine and the pelvis in neutral. So if you'll notice, my hinge is here. It's not from my waist. So I keep my spine and my pelvis in the same position, and I just hinge at the hip joint. And open. So this is strengthening the back, the shoulders. Make sure that as you bring your arms up, that you don't duck your head forward to try to get your arms feeling like they're in line with the ears. You want to keep the neck in line with the spine. One more time. Now we're going to go to a calf stretch. So any place in your house, counter, wall, you're just going to send one leg back, and you're going to lean forward from the hips and keep that back heel down. The upper body is up, and you're going to really be stretching in that gastroc, the more surface of the calf muscles. You can kind of lean the hips side to side a little bit. It helps move the stretch around in those calf muscles. Remember that you're keeping your hips forward and your body lifted. You're not leaning your upper body forward. And now I'm going to step my back foot in a little bit closer to my front foot so that I can bend my back knee. And that's going to bring the stretch more into my soleus muscle, which is the calf muscle that lays underneath the gastrocs. So into that soleus muscle, down into the Achilles tendon. And now let's switch legs. Send your other leg back. Heel goes down. The body stays lifted and up. The hips come forward. So you're getting a stretch in the calf, but you're also going to get a little stretch through the front of the hip because you're bringing the hips forward and extending the leg back and keeping the body lifted up. And then again, you can take the hips side to side slightly. And then I'm going to step my feet a little bit closer to each other and bend my back knee, changing which muscle is getting the focus of the stretch. So now it's that deeper soleus muscle underneath the gastroc. Okay, and now let's go into a quad stretch. If you have a wall close by that you can touch onto for balance, go ahead. If you don't, go ahead and challenge your balance a little bit. You want to make sure that when you're doing your quad stretch that you keep your knee in line with the bone in the front of your hip and that you don't twist your leg off to the side when you're stretching. If it's hard for you to reach and pull your foot back, then you can lie down on the floor. Sometimes this makes it a little bit easier for us to reach it. And if it's still challenging for you to reach it, then if you have I don't have it with me, if you have a belt or a yoga strap that you can just loop over the foot. Here, let me grab this one. If you have a belt or a yoga strap, then what you would do is make a small loop that you are going to just put your foot in, and then you will bring the strap over your shoulder. And you can stretch that way. Okay. When you're stretching the quad, you want to keep the knee pointed down to the floor as if you're standing on that leg, so you don't want the knee to come forward. And we want to open the front of the hip. So I want you to tuck your tailbone under, like you're trying to push into the front of the hip to deepen the stretch in the quad. If you're lying on the floor doing it, you're going to feel like you're pushing the front of your hip into the floor. Okay, let's switch sides. Keeping your knee pointing down to the floor, tucking your tailbone under, opening through the front of the hip and increasing that stretch down the quadricep. Okay, so now come down to the floor and we're going to do ankle rolls and point and flex. Let me get my battery pack here. So lying down in our hook lying position, you can then extend one leg long and straight and bend your other knee, and you're going to hold under your knee and we're going to roll the ankle 15 times. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. Make sure they're nice and big. 14, 15 reverse directions like you're circling the inside of a bowl. 3, 4, 5, 6. Make sure the movement is all coming from the ankle and not that you're moving the whole lower leg. 11, 12, 13, 14, and 15. Now we're going to flex and point. 1, 2, really reach through the heel, then point the foot. 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, and 15. Okay, rub that out, and we'll switch legs. So you can work up to 40 rotations in each direction. We're going to roll 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. All of the muscles that make up the foot and the ankle are our calf muscles. So we're really working the calf muscles. Reverse as we get mobility through the ankle and the foot. 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. Point and flex now. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Reach through the heel. Point through the foot strongly. 12, 13, 14, and 15. Just rub those out a little bit. Okay. All right, sitting up, we're going to go into our side stretch with our rotation. So sitting cross-legged. Over to the side, bringing your right arm by your ear, up tall, and over to the other side. Pressing that opposite knee down. So press the right knee down and press the left knee down. Last one like this. And now we go into our rotation. Side stretch first. Rotate, lower the arm down. Back to the side and up. Over. As we stretch the side and then rotate and lower the arm, we're getting movement, slip and glide between all of those muscles that run up the back, round the shoulder. Last time on this side. And over. Okay, so now we're going to come to our hands and knees. Put my pack back on. We're in our 4-point kneeling position with our wrists right under our shoulders, our knees right under our hips. We have a small arch in our low back. Our spine is long and our shoulders are pulled back. Press the shins into the floor and release. And press and release. When we're in this relaxed position, the transverse abdominis, our deepest abdominal muscle, is working to stabilize the pelvis and the spine. And then as we press our shins into the floor, then that activates more of our abdominal muscles to counter the force of pressing the shins into the floor. So it then becomes a core strengthening exercise. So we go from core stabilization when our legs are relaxed to core strengthening when we press the shins into the floor. Keep the neck long, the shoulders pulled back. Make sure that the position of your spine and pelvis do not change as you press your shins into the floor. One more time. And now we're going to go into cat-cow. So curl up and lengthen out into cow, keeping the shoulders back away from the neck, and curl up into cat and out into cow. Flexing the spine, using the abdominal muscles, and then extending the spine using the back extensor muscles. So again, this is a really good core strengthening exercise because whenever we're moving the pelvis or the spine, and here we're moving both, we're using all of those core muscles and the big moving muscles. So that's core strengthening, as well as just increasing the mobility in the pelvis, the spine, even the shoulders. One more time. Now we're going to add an angry cat. So we're going to curl up into cat, Walk our hands back slightly so that we shift our body weight back towards our heels a little bit more and deepen the stretch into the low back. We're staying rounded, and then walk it back and lengthen out into cow. Curl up into cat, walk the hands back, stay in your C curve, come back forward, and lengthen out. Curl up, walk it back, and come forward. Now back into your 4-point kneeling. Let's shift back with a long spine. Tuck the tailbone, roll, and bring it forward. Our moving cat-cow now. Shift back, tuck and roll. Shift and round. Long spine. Press back through the hands. Tuck the tailbone, curl and roll forward 2 more times. Back, round the spine, roll forward, and shift, and round the spine and roll forward. Keeping your hips lifted up in the air, extend your arms out in front of you and bring your forehead to the mat, dropping down into a downward dog on your knees. Your spine is long and in extension. Elbows are straight so that the arms are long, so that you're really getting that stretch where the arms connect into the torso. Tailbone is lifting up and reaching away from your fingertips. We're starting to get the spine ready for the big extension that we're going to go into, and we're in downward dog. Walk it back in, rest it in a child's pose. So this is a counter movement where now we round the back and soften the front of the body, stretching the back of the body that was just activated. Okay, now come back to your hands and knees in your 4-point kneeling position. And you're going to tuck your toes under. To lift up into a downward dog, I don't want you to just press up and push back. I want you to lift your hips and your knees off of the floor and then press your body back, extending your arms so that you find that spinal extension first. And then as your hamstrings allow, you're going to lift your hips up to the ceiling, straightening the legs. Now from here, let's pedal out the feet, stretching through one side and then the other. And now come to lowering both heels. Keep pressing the chest back, pressing the heels into the floor as much as you can, lifting your hips up to the ceiling, pushing your hands into the floor. And now let's soften it, bringing the knees down, coming into a child's pose. Soften everything. Okay, come back one more time for your downward dog one more time, and we're going to add a hip roll. Tuck the toes under, lift up, press the body back, and now try to straighten the legs. Now if it feels okay to you, you're going to lift up onto the balls of the toes, take one leg up to the ceiling, and then you're going to roll the hips open over that standing leg. Come back to where your hips are square and lower that leg down. Press back into your downward dog, lower the heels. Lift up onto the balls of the toes again, lift the other leg up in the air. Roll the hip open over that standing leg. Bring it back square and center. Lower back down to the balls of your toes and then drop both heels and push back into that downward dog. Bend the knees. Rest it in a child's pose. And we're going to go into that one last time. Find your 4-point kneeling, tuck your toes under, lift up, press back. So often we roll the leg in the hip joint. It's not often that we roll the hip joint over the leg when we're stretching or working out. So lift up onto the balls of the toes. Take your right leg up to the ceiling. Roll over that left hip, opening up. Come back to square. Lower your right foot down. Push back into your downward dog, dropping your heels. Lift up into the balls of the toes. Left leg comes up. Roll the hip open. Come back to center square. Come back to both feet on tiptoes and then lower the heels down. And bend your knees. And rest one last time in child's pose. Sit up. Come into a hero's pose, which means that you're sitting on your heels with your feet pointed straight back behind you, not crossed. Come into a hero's pose. The pelvis tilts forward slightly and just rest the hands in the lap. Allow the shoulders to rest down. The ribs are closed in the front and the spine is tall. And here we'll just take a few breaths together as we end. This is a great position to allow the diaphragm to drop down into the abdomen. Rest the eyes, feel the head lifting and floating. Feel the base of the skull lifting up, spine growing tall. One final breath together. And thank you for joining us today.